Chekhov made a technique for actors, all these different exercises, as a way to enter into that approach. But he said that there were 5 guiding principles, and that these 5 guiding principles are a way to acquire the technique. And that if you kept them in mind all the time while teaching, and you keep them in mind all the time while learning, then it's possible to comprehend the method very easily, quickly, and comprehensively. And 5 guiding principles are: the first one is that the work is psychophysical, which essentially means that the body and the psychology are the same thing. This body-mind connection, which is a pretty common idea these days. In his days, not so common, an understanding, but that the psychology is completely wrapped up in the body. This very famous early psychologist, William James, he said, I'm in the forest, I see a bear, I run, and then I'm afraid, right? And so just in the fact of running away from this thing, I work up this kind of fear, right? It's a movement that happens. I make a movement and I feel something, right? The second principle is that it is the most potent means of expression are intangible. And some of these means are this idea of an atmosphere. This can be actually generated by a group of actors with the right kind of concentration. Nobody would know what that was exactly. They would come into and see this production and say, oh, it was so incredibly wonderful to watch this production, not knowing really that it was an atmosphere that was being consciously created by the actors. So you're going to go around and you're going to shake people's hands. You're going to expand, right? And then you're going to go shake somebody else's hand and you're going to contract. And then you're going to go shake somebody else's hand and you're going to expand, right? You're going to just go between these two things. Okay, good. How's it going? Something happened?
Yeah, it's wild.
What does that mean?
Like the shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's nice that you can do it, right? I mean, can you do it?
Yeah, the sensation, that by wild I mean like literally embodying that sensation and then coming across someone who might not be experiencing that, and then it's like emotional clash, and it feels tangible. I guess that's what's...
But doable.
Right.
You're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is the most important thing, that you can say that you can do it. The third guiding principle is that the work is spiritual, but not religious, and that it's connected with the work of the unconscious and the higher intellect, and the ability to work with synthesis, which is in direct contrast to analysis. A lot of actors are taught to analyze things and separate them, and so that they can understand them. And this is very what we would call these days left brain kind of work. And so I guess the third principle here is connected with right brain, which is more imaginative, and this ability to synthesize things like archetypes and the psychological gestures and all these other things that can come together and just miraculously make a third thing, which is what the audience sees. The fourth guiding principle is this idea that the technique is one thing. So there are many parts of this technique, but we have to look at it as one thing. So if I engage one aspect of this technique, then all of them will fire up when I engage the one thing, because they are like a web, somewhat connected to each other. It's like a network, really. And so if I activate or start pulling on this thing over here, well, this part of it starts to vibrate. You know, you're walking down the street and you see somebody who's coming towards you, and you know this person, and you don't like this person. And you know you have to talk with them because they're coming to you. right? You know you're going to have to deal with them, right? And so as they're getting closer and closer to you, your spirit, your energy body starts to sink and shrink, actually, right? So that by the time you reach them, this is, the inner picture of you is like this, right? But you're like this, right? But this is like this, but you somehow, your physical body's connected to this, right? This whole diminished spirit. And you talk to this person, and it's all very awful, you know, and you feel terrible, and they feel, I don't know how they feel, but you feel terrible. And then you leave them, and you turn and you see someone you love, right? And you go, oh, you have no idea who I just had to deal with, right? And so your spirit in relation to this person is huge, right? And so this is this energetic thing, and it goes on all day long for us, and we're just following that. So, and so if we can know what that is, recognize it, then we can make use of it as actors. And the last guiding principle is this idea of artistic freedom. This requires you to have a dialogue, actual dialogue with the technique, to find out which one of these things speaks to you the strongest and the loudest. And that's the thing that you would want to work on, because if I work on that, all the others again are going to fire up, and I will be inspired, and have freedom as an artist, and that's essentially what it is. So these 5 things have to be somewhat kept conscious in the mind while developing and the technique as an actor, and while teaching it as a teacher, so that this is how we can acquire the technique. Welcome to the Michael Chekhov Acting Studio. Do you know why you've come?